All right, I'm here with Rob Roy Menzies in the Bigfoot Art Gallery in Palmer, Alaska. Tell us about the shop.
Well, we do custom matting and framing here in Palmer. Been doing it for quite a long time. But we have the Bigfoot theme, so of course we have Bigfoot stuff in here. Of course, I'm into Bigfoot, so you can talk to me. Pia likes Bigfoot too. She loves to hear the stories. But anyway, we've been here for about 4 years now, and it's building up quite a little following here. It's pretty. It's been an interesting ride, let me tell you that. So
It's a special treat because I get to come here, meet people that come into the shop, hear stories, talk to you. I always buy something. I'm going to get another hoodie because my kid stole my hoodie, my last one I got from you. So
well, yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, so lots of Bigfoot swag in here, but yeah, get a lot of stories. I get a lot of people come in here. You know, they feel safe.
Right.
You know, once they walk in, they're like, okay, I
And
can
you've
tell
got
my story.
all your artwork here, and a lot of them
Yeah.
are affordable because you can get
Yeah.
prints, and that's
Yep.
what I've been doing. I've been getting prints from you.
Right, right.
So
Yeah, I sell my artwork. It's one of the only places you can buy my artwork, which is kind of cool too. But,
absolutely. But if people had to, they could go on your Facebook page.
yeah, they can go on my
order.
Facebook page or my website, and you can always feel free to call the gallery because it's either Pia or myself here going to answer the phone. So I can fulfill orders. I can make prints.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a lot of art I have. So, you know,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, the topic I wanted to talk about today, and Beans Baxter is going to do a video too. He's been chiming in and giving me ideas, but this is an interesting topic. How do you think Bigfoot survives in the Alaska winter when you're covered in 3 feet
Man,
of snow?
that's such a great question because let's just take Area A for example. I've been there, of course, in the summer, but I've also been there out kind of in the winter when the snow is still just everywhere.
Yeah.
And personally, I sit there and look at that mountain, which is, I'm talking a mountain which we've heard a lot of vocals coming from.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would ever want to be on that. There's little avalanches coming down. It's just, why would anything alive on this earth want to walk around up there? And we've explored around. It's really hard to get around out. The snow's really deep. I don't know. We wonder, do they migrate?
Right.
Do they just go in the caves? Do they not do anything? They just walk around?
I think they're less active. I was thinking that they might not hibernate, but they probably spend a lot of time in their little caves and stuff.
I don't think they hibernate, but I could be wrong, but I think they just, like you said, I think they slow down. Maybe they go somewhere that's a little less, I don't know, wintry, maybe, I don't know. But I don't know, there's been people have seen them in the wintertime, so it's not like they go away completely.
Yeah.
We really wanted to go out to Area A this winter, and it just didn't work out, and just to see if there's anything interesting going on. But I've been out there in, I want to say, early April, and there was still a lot of snow.
Yeah.
And we found tracks of deer, bear, there's a wolf, even mountain goats, but nothing Bigfoot in the snow.
Okay.
That's another kind of, in person, it's like a mystery. I'm like, I keep hoping we'll find something.
They're just not as active.
Not in the snow. I mean, maybe they're up higher, or maybe they do sleep a lot of the time.
Right.
But only the Bigfoot knows.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if they're collecting food.
Yeah, if they like live in caves and they do go out in the winter, but they you know, generally like we do, we're kind of, they probably get cabin fever too. You know?
Right.
Maybe they just get stir crazy.
Absolutely.
Because of the winter. I mean, I couldn't imagine these things walking around. But again, if they're 10 to 14 feet tall, some of the snow we have a hard time walking through would be pretty easy for them.
True.
But I would be very excited if I ever saw, you know, especially out in Area A or anywhere for that matter, but if I saw snow tracks, I'd be very intrigued. I've personally never seen them, so, but I've known people who have in the winter.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
They're still out and about.
Apparently, yeah.
Not as much.
The one story from Eagle River after our major earthquake about 6 years ago, a gentleman walked out of his house after the earthquake and saw these ginormous footprints going through his yard and walking up on the snowbank, and he thought it was a bear. He thought it was just a bear.
Yeah.
And maybe it woke up from the earthquake.
Right.
And he did. I remember him telling me, he said to himself out loud, "Oh, it woke you up too, big boy." And he was thinking bear.
Right.
So later in the day, he decided to go look at the tracks, and voila, they were big human footprints.
Wow.
And this was in the winter, if you remember that. And he followed. This guy was a professional tracker, and he followed these footprints all the way up towards Eklutna.
Wow.
He said he went about a mile, and these tracks did not change. They were just marching away. They kept going, and he started feeling a little scared.
Oh, yeah.
So he stopped and turned around. But interesting story.
Absolutely.
Again, but that's a winter thing. Whether the earthquake woke him up,
Right.
I don't know.
Awesome. Well, everybody check out the Bigfoot Art Gallery on Facebook, and Rob has his own YouTube channel, so I will have a link for that, and subscribe to his YouTube channel. But look forward to next week.
Yes.
All right, I'm here with Beans Baxter, and this is like the Bat Cave, man. I'm pretty impressed with your man cave here.
Yeah, you're actually witnessing history here. Chuk is the first influencer, squatcher, colleague to ever be in my sanctum sanctorum here, the Beans Cave, as it is. Yeah.
Got samurai swords, all kinds of stuff. I love it.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of everything here. Everything from Batman to the Big Lebowski. There's a Bigfoot back there, Moon Knight. Every kind of intellectual property that I'm a fan of, there's a representation in this room.
Love it. So everybody check out, it's called Alasquatch, right? So you're on all the podcast platforms and YouTube, but many of you might not know that he's on Instagram and TikTok, and you're like the meme lord of the Bigfoot world, man.
I don't know how that happened. Like, I love memes. I'm a huge fan of them, and I just kind of started. It's kind of like my coping mechanism. Like, something in the Bigfoot community will just irk me, and I'll just make fun of it. I'll make a meme about it, and I'll post it. And some of them have gone like pretty viral. I wouldn't say in the millions, but in the hundreds of thousands of views and likes. And it just kind of happened. And
it's Alasquatch on Instagram and TikTok?
It's Alasquatch podcast on, I think, both platforms.
All right. So. And I can tell that you're a veteran because you're just pure evil, man. Your memes, you don't hold back. If I'm drinking something, I can't look at his memes because I'll spit it out. They're pretty funny, man.
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of a coping mechanism. It's when something is, if I'm making a meme about it, then it probably bothered me at one point in time, and I'm just like, this is how I'm coping with it. I'm going to get it out there.
Love it. Well, we're here to talk about how Sasquatch, and this is the idea you had, how Sasquatch survives like in this northern environment in the winter. Like there's not as much food. So let's just jump into it. What are your ideas on what they do to get through the winter?
Well, it's one of the things that's always intrigued me about Bigfoot and Sasquatch is you just see such a prevalent presence in like Canada, Alaska, and they have such some parts of Canada, not all. I know there's going to be somebody that's like, it's actually very nice in Ontario or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's very rough terrain and weather in those areas, and it's always intrigued me how something like a Bigfoot or Sasquatch could survive in that. And people say, well, moose and bear do it, and that's true, they do. But we know, living in Alaska, if there's a lot of snow in the winter, we see the moose struggle. We can see that on a daily basis almost, with the moose coming into town and licking the salt off of the cars and chewing on basically dead twigs to survive.
Yeah, and
it makes me wonder how Bigfoot do that. And you see with bear and moose, the moose have the hooves. Mm-hmm. And bear, they have the pads and the claws. Mm-hmm. But the thing that intrigues me is that if Bigfoot exists, and by all the witness accounts, they have digits. They have fingers and toes.
Right.
So how, in these frigid, cold environments, how do they not suffer from frostbite.
Oh,
How do they keep their digits and keep their toes? Because you don't hear any stories about, like, the two-fingered Bigfoot walk by, and
right.
so it just intrigues me. Like, how are they able to not only survive but seemingly thrive? And there's a reason why we can't survive outside unprotected.
Yeah.
We have to wear gloves or we'll get frostbite. It makes me wonder, like, do they have something special that they do in the wintertime to keep their digits safe, or do they just not have the same amount of circulation like we do?
Right.
I guess it would certainly lend itself to, like, that's why they don't have, like, maybe the fine motor skills like that we do, is maybe they just don't have the circulation and the nerves in our fingers like we do, and maybe that's how
Yeah.
they keep them. But it's just, that's one of the big questions. Like, it's not at the top of my list, but it's right up there. Is like, how do they survive in these
Yeah.
temperatures without losing digits?
My guess would be that they've got larger blood vessels, so they're going to be a little more robust in the winter. And then when it's really cold, you've heard of them building shelters and living in caves and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and I think that they probably, I don't think they hibernate,
Right.
but I think in winter they definitely go into a low power mode.
Right.
They might go, okay, we got to go out and we got to get something to eat, and then it's back to wherever we're holed up.
Yeah.
And same thing for the next week or two, however long this food sustains us. I imagine if they get a moose, it can probably keep them going for a little while, and then they just do that all winter basically until they can venture out further and get different food sources. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think they probably just go into a really near hibernation where they're not getting out, they're not expending as much energy. They only get out when they absolutely have to procure food.
And I wonder if they're like storing things up. Like bears will bury a kill. Like maybe they're somehow preserving food or storing it.
It wouldn't surprise me if they did. I think they probably do have the presence of mind to know that if I put this here, I can come back and get it later. And I've heard of people finding trees full of nuts and stuff like that didn't really make sense for a squirrel to do it like that. Not that amount, like an entire dead tree full of nuts and stuff like that.
Wow.
So not up here, but in other places.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something like that going on. Other animals do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then up here, I think we both agreed, meat eaters.
Yeah, I think they're basically omnivores.
Yeah, just whatever
They're
they can.
opportunists. Whatever they can digest. Much like the moose, especially in winter, they'll eat whatever they can to survive.
Yeah, and so they could survive off small game. One thing I've always found interesting in the mountains, at least, all year round, you can still find berries. They're just under a little bit of snow sometimes. So
yeah, and it's a natural refrigerator. So that wouldn't surprise me a bit to find that they are primarily carnivores in the wintertime, and then primarily herbivores in the summertime.
yeah,
Especially in the fall toward the berry season. You always hear about the people out picking berries and seeing them in the berry patches.
oh really?
So I think they're basically just whatever's available. They're gonna snack on. They're gonna fatten themselves up on.
And so a human's out, lost, out in the middle of nowhere in wintertime. They run into a hungry Bigfoot. Could that be a problem? Could they be a meal for the Bigfoot?
I think it's certainly possible. I think it's a lot like a bear. If you run into a bear and there's a certain set of circumstances, maybe it's protecting young, maybe it's older and it can't necessarily hunt as well anymore.
Yeah.
I think those are certainly recipes that would lend themselves to Bigfoot as well for a negative human Bigfoot interaction or dangerous one. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if they're desperate enough that they would take a human, possibly for feeding purposes. Although I also believe that they are probably cognizant enough of us to know that if we go missing, more are going to show up.
Yeah.
And it's probably not something that they do on the regular. It's like I said, it has to be a certain particular set of circumstances for that to happen.
Yeah, and they're pretty smart too. I believe that. I mean, the chimps and gorillas are super smart, and I think they're smarter than that.
Yeah, they have to be, for them to have remained hidden for so long. I mean, they're the masters of their environment. They know what's going on. They know how to remain hidden. I think that's probably their primary purpose. Eat, sleep, reproduce, stay hidden, and that's what they do.
Well, we're going to check in with Rob Roy Menzies. He gave me his thoughts on this, so let's check in with him. So yeah, Rob kind of had the same ideas. I think it's interesting that small game, I think in wintertime they would snatch up a rabbit in the snow, a fox, little birds.
Yeah.
I could see him munching on that.
Well, you saw my my lynx video. That was just over here.
Oh, right, yeah.
I've seen more lynx in person than I have on my game cameras.
Wow.
Which just baffles me. You would think it would be the other way around.
Interesting. And they look like kind of big too.
That was a big one. I saw one time. It was actually kind of a weird. I've got video of it somewhere. It was a very weird encounter. I'm driving down, actually the Swanson River Road. Or it wasn't Swanson River Road. It was Swan Lake Road.
Okay.
Driving down there, and I'm looking up, and I see something kind of light colored move, kind of dash across the road. And I wasn't thinking Bigfoot or anything, but I'm like, what the hell was that? Because it wasn't a bear, and it was small.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what was that? And it was kind of lighter colored. So I'm like, geez, that's going through the Rolodex. Like, don't know what that could be. Get to about where it was, stop, and there's a lynx. Shit you not. There's a lynx laying on the side of the road. Just kind of like on a little berm.
Looking.
And I roll my window down, and I'm like, I mean, I'm from here to the porch post to this lynx. And I don't know, I'm like, I get my phone out, I start recording, and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I can't believe he's just sitting there looking at me. So I start talking to it. I'm like, hi, kitty, kitty. You know, I'm like, what else am I going to do, you know? So I start talking to it, and he just kind of, or she, whatever it was, just looking at me, just kind of trying to figure me out. And eventually I got done talking to it, and I'm like, I don't know what else to do. And I didn't want to disturb it, so I just rolled my window up and drove off, and he just sat there. So I don't know, maybe she had cubs behind her that she was protecting, or I don't know. But it was one of the strangest interactions I've ever had with an animal. It was just so calm, and just sat there and listened to I remember I asked him, I asked him if he's seen Bigfoot. I was like, have you seen Bigfoot? Could you tell him I'm looking for him, you know? And he was just, or she was just as chill as could be. And then I drove off and went down to the end of the road, which was a ways away, and come back. And when I came back, it was gone. But yeah, I've seen more lynx in real life, in person, than I have ever captured on my game camera. And I've been putting game cameras up for like 5+ years.
Yeah. So there's tons of fur-bearing animals, they call them, like the trappers will trap in the wintertime. I mean, they can munch on squirrels.
Well, this is a rabbit year.
Oh, right.
If
every other year or every couple
I think it's like every 5 years or something.
Okay.
If I took you out in these, I mean, I can show you right now. There's all along these wood lines is just full of rabbit tracks.
Yeah.
We've found 3 rabbit carcasses just here in the last like 2 or 3 months that owls have got. It's a big owl year too, because of the rabbit. You know, so I assume because it's a rabbit year and the rabbits are plentiful, that's probably what brought the lynx in.
Oh, right.
Because like I said, I've had that camera here on my property for years, ever since I've had the camera, and that's the first lynx I've ever gotten.
Wow.
Doesn't necessarily mean that it's the first lynx that's ever come through here, but it's the first one that ever came through where the camera is. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting, you know. People, why aren't there pictures? Why isn't there proof? But I'm like, I just got a lynx on camera, and I've never seen one here, you know. Like, it just happens, you know.
Wow. All right, well, everybody check out Alasquatch, and what's the name of the podcast?
It's the Alasquatch Podcast. It should be available on every podcatcher out there. There's a YouTube channel, the Alasquatch Podcast YouTube channel. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter.
Nice. All right. We'll be doing more videos in the future.